Morgan has requested me on Patreon to review Mothra vs. Godzilla, the fourth movie in the iconic Japanese series about the giant radioactive dinosaur. So this is going to sound like blasphemy to kaiju fans, but I actually have more familiarity with the American Godzilla films than I do the Japanese ones. I did watch the first two movies several years ago, but they're due for revisit. I am curious about Godzilla Minus One, with how much people have raved about it, but the lack of a North American home release has been frustrating. But looking at Mothra vs. Godzilla, I quite enjoyed this one. While some might argue plot is not necessarily an important element of Godzilla movies, I like the one they came up with here. There's an ecological message with this giant egg washing ashore, which a couple of businessmen have already taken advantage of to turn to a money-making scheme. I thought the main heroes who try to go up against the capitalists were a likable bunch, and that is necessary. Yes, most people here see the monsters go up against each other and don't care about the people. But when it takes almost half an hour for Godzilla to show up, you kind of need to have some investment in the humans in the middle of all this. The director, Shiro Honda, was willing to go to some out there and fantastical places with the story. Once you see two tiny women show up all of a sudden in a tribe of islanders worshipping Mothra, it becomes clear what the intended tone is supposed to be, and I absolutely rolled with what the movie threw at me. When the monsters appear, there are the trademarks known to even people who've never seen a Godzilla movie, with a person in a Godzilla costume and the big G stomping across Japan and knocking over buildings while the people underneath try to run to safety. Honda and his team photographed all those scenes well, and the special effects crew also pull out all the stops to bring Mothra to life. When Godzilla appears on the screen for the first time, it does feel like an event, and I like how at this point he's already a national celebrity among the Japanese populace who immediately recognize him. The model work with the buildings is impressively done, although I read that they had to reshoot a scene because the quality of the first model was so good, the actor playing Godzilla had difficulty knocking it down. One of the big centerpieces of the movie is the fight between Mothra and Godzilla. You really feel the scale of these two titans, and both prove to be formidable opponents. I do wish the fight scene included a few more wide shots, but I know they're working with the limitations they had. There are other neat special effects throughout the movie. They made it look completely believable that the two tiny island women were there in the office building and other locations, and then you have those familiar shots of people running away with Godzilla in the background. Some of the special effects and model work gave me almost a Thunderbirds feel at times. And then you have shots like the obvious toy tanks making their way to Godzilla. But I love that you can tell they're remote-controlled toys. It adds a certain charm to the production, and also highlights how much Godzilla towers over them, and how you need more than a military tank to bring him down. The filmmakers were ultimately able to make me invested in the people, Mothra trying to protect her egg, and the entire showdown that occurs. That Mothra came from another movie and looked right at home next to Godzilla is also credit to Honda and his team. Finally, I want to talk about the print quality of the version of Mothra vs. Godzilla I watched on the Criterion channel. Immediately when I started viewing the movie, I noticed this line would appear at the bottom of the screen whenever there was a cut. I eventually stopped noticing the line as it got less severe as the film played on, and I became used to it, but it was quite distracting during the first reel in particular. I thought there was a problem with what I was watching the movie on, but looking into the matter, I found out this issue was not unique to my viewing experience. This is a problem with both the streaming version of the movie on Criterion Channel and on the Criterion Collection Blu-ray, but it's not Criterion's fault. What happened was, even though Toho is a 4K restoration of Mothra vs. Godzilla and has released a pristine-looking Blu-ray of the movie in Japan, they chose to give an inferior quality print to Criterion and with extremely strict guidelines on what they are allowed to do with the film. It's odd that a studio would not want audiences around the world to see their film in the best possible quality, but that's Toho's decision apparently. Anyway, as for the movie itself, I had a fun time with it and felt it succeeded as a blockbuster movie with a decent amount of creativity from everyone involved. If you've seen Mothra vs. Godzilla, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and thank you for the request, Morgan.